So many of you have probably heard of children who became frustrated with school even though they're smart.
Do you know that up to 20% of the population is dyslexic, but many are left unidentified, mislabeled, or not helped because of lack of services?
Yeah, after hearing this, many of you may realize that awareness and understanding of dyslexia is important. First of all, we'd like to thank each of you for spending time with us. We know your time is precious, and we appreciate you spending some of it with us. Hi, I'm Dr. Doug Curtis.
And I'm Lucie Curtis from Dyslexic and Unstoppable. Our mission is to help dyslexics rediscover their inner power. And as we go through this webinar, you're going to find out what we actually mean about that.
Right, exactly. Actually, we hope to help you with two things in this webinar. First of all is to connect the dots, as we say, which is basically to help you put together a bunch of the symptoms that your child may have to realize when it's dyslexia, so that they can get the appropriate services they need early on. And the second thing is to recognize the power of words, to realize how powerful your words are, especially in the lives of children. And so that when you talk to a child, that you use those words to empower them. All right. And so now we're going to have a little demonstration about the power of words. All right. You'll see that next. All right. So we have a little demonstration about the power of words. We're going to show you something that you've probably seen a million times, and with the power of words, we'll be able to actually change the way you look at it. So this is the FedEx logo, and we've all seen it a million times on the trucks and all that stuff. But there's actually a couple of little symbols that are in there. So check if you can see where they are and what they are. We'll give you like 10 seconds, and then we'll start to give you some hints.
There's two.
Yeah. All right. So why don't you give them the first hint of what they should be looking for?
So towards the right side, there's an arrow.
Right? Can you see it yet? It's a white arrow. It's actually between the E and the X right here. All right. And then the other one, which a lot of people don't know as well, is on my side. There's actually a little medicine spoon here in the E. So you probably can see it now that we've said it, right? So why do we do this demonstration?
Because of the power of words. And it's not because of the FedEx, it's the fact that we told you we're making an association, right? So now every time you're going to see FedEx, you're going to have a different reaction. You're going to think of this little exercise. And this was a positive exercise. So it just shows that when somebody tells you something, it affects you. Right,
exactly. So especially, like you said, this is a positive or neutral exercise.
Yeah.
That if it's a negative thing, like for example, your child being told they're slow or stupid or something like that, those words really affect them. So every time you see this FedEx, now you'll think about this demonstration and you'll remember the power of words. All right, we're going to move on to the next part now. So having seen the power of words, wouldn't you find it amazing to inspire a child with dyslexia?
Since we're going to spend a little time together, is it okay if we tell you about our journey and how we got here? So as we said, my name is Lucie Curtis. I'm dyslexic and I'm unstoppable. So when I was in school, I struggled with reading, writing, and speech, and some of these things still remain today, but I found ways to cope even though I didn't even know I was dyslexic when I was in school. So today I'm a author of 2 books. I'm a mom, I'm an entrepreneur, I run 2 successful businesses, and I'm here to show you that even though I'm imperfect, it's okay. But I want you and your child to know that imperfection is okay and that being unstoppable is more important. But, even though I have a great life, I'm happy, I'm successful, and even I found ways to cope with the things that I still don't do so well today, my biggest accomplishment was helping my now 12-year-old son overcome dyslexia. So this is what this webinar is all about.
Exactly. As I mentioned, my name's Doug Curtis. I'm a pediatrician, Yale-trained pediatrician. I've had 18 years of experience helping thousands of parents navigate the school system to get the services they need. And I've also helped a lot of parents work outside the school system to find services outside the school system. Yet I think nothing's prepared either of us to be dyslexic experts as when our child was born and we started to see him have issues with reading. We knew that he was super, super smart, yet he struggled with reading. It came to the point where at the end of first grade, they were actually talking about holding him back. We knew at that point that it was time. We need to dig in, figure out what was wrong, and take charge of it and help him get through it. And many of you may have had a similar situation where something happened in your life, you made a decision, and it changed the course of your child's life.
Yes.
So we researched all the available tools we could find, online tools, classes, reading classes, speech classes, everything we could find to help our son. And then after we saw his amazing success, we kind of put it all together and decided we want to share it with other parents to help them. So I'm sure you can see how important it is for us to bring this message of hope and inspiration to parents around the world.
Yes.
So why did we write this book?
Why did we write this book? So our book is Dyslexic and Unstoppable. How dyslexia helps us create the lives of our dreams and how you can do it too. So basically this is our journey, everything. When you're a parent, you're working sometimes 2 jobs. It's very stressful, you're overwhelmed, and when your child is struggling, you're trying to figure out, okay, where do I start with all this? And we literally said, we've gone through this. It took years and years and years to accumulate all this information and find out all these little steps that work for us. And we said, why not share it with parents so that they can find simple solutions and get started right away to helping their child? Because we've been there, and it's extremely overwhelming.
Right.
So this is where it comes from.
Right, exactly.
You know?
We decided we need to make it unique, right? So how did we do that?
So because I'm dyslexic, when I was, like waiting for my son at the reading classes, there was all these big, thick books and jargons and things like that. And it was not realistic for me to think that I was going to go through all that information. And, just reading that book would have taken me months and months. So I was like, well, what if our parents, either the parent is dyslexic or you're working 2 jobs? How are you going to get to that information? So that's how we came up with our book and said, we want to get the information to the parent as soon as possible. So we said, visual is the best thing that we can do for parents or parents of who are dyslexic, or even if you're not dyslexic. Imagine you get a book, you click on, how can I help my child with reading and writing, different reading classes, right? And we're there explaining it to you without you having to read 3 chapters that night. That's the power of this book, you know?
Exactly. And of course you can watch it over and over again, those
Right.
videos, as many times as you want. The other thing I think is even the book itself, it's written from the right brain perspective. So it's as if Lucie's talking to you for most of the book. And then at the end of each chapter, we put a special summary for the right brain or dyslexic thinker, and there we basically put the bullet points of everything that you need to know from that chapter. So for the patient or the person who has really a difficulty with reading, they can just go to those bullet points and kind of get the main gist of the chapter. And then if they want to go back and listen to it, they can. And of course, then the videos supplement it. And then, of course, there's the expertise of me as the pediatrician. Having seen thousands of kids and helping them through school, a lot of times parents will come in and they'll say, my kid's got an attention problem or a hyperactivity problem or a behavioral problem or something like that. And it's up to me to kind of figure out what's actually going on underneath that it may be a learning issue. And so these are all the questions I've gotten through the years. And it's laid out in a nice question and answer type format so that, again, it's not dense information you have to get through. We realize that dyslexia is a big field. There's lots of people out there who are experts. There's those that do the research, the brain research, do the brain scans to see what parts of the brain are involved. There's those that actually do the teaching of the dyslexics to help them with the reading and those things. And then there's those that are involved in policy change, going to Capitol Hill and testifying and trying to get laws and policies changed. So where do we fit in? If you go to this section of your local bookstore, you'll see many books on dyslexia. But again, like you said, many of them are thick books. They're very scientific. They're hard to get through.
Right.
And so, especially for a busy parent or a parent who's dyslexic, because dyslexia can run in families, it can be difficult. So we saw the need for a book that was different, a book that was written from the point of view of a dyslexic, and also from the point of view of parents of a dyslexic, and then the contribution of myself. So we really think that you'll find it works for you great.
Right.
So
next we're going to talk about the ways that so what is our mission? Because we have one mission, which is what we said before, with the inner power of children. And the other part of it is there's 4 objectives that we want to accomplish. So the next part of the video will be on that. So.
Okay.
So in this part, we are going to tell you the ways that we help the dyslexic. So as I said before, we have one mission, which is to help dyslexics rediscover their inner power. But underneath that, we have 4 objectives. And the first one is we inform. So we teach the parents and the teachers the signs and symptoms of dyslexia, because the earlier you learn it, the better the outcome is. And we wanted you to take a moment and think of something that you would think that would be related to dyslexia before they get to school, right? So before the reading issues happen and the writing issues, what do you think that would be some of the signs that you would see between 1 and 4 years old?
Right. Exactly. Because a lot of people they think dyslexia with the reading and everything like that, but there are definitely some signs you may see before that. So you can try to think of that. We'll give you a moment. And as you're thinking about it, think about things like language development, fine motor development. Think of those types of areas. Other things that might happen.
Crawling. Right. All these little things you don't think.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, that's why we come in, we're trying to do the early, because Doug is a pediatrician, he sees those kids when, the physicals and all these things, he is at that point when the kid is having the issues and the parents come in, when the teachers are questioning things. And so that's where we really come in to the early identification of dyslexia.
Right. So some of the things that you might have thought of, first of all, speech delay, right? Speaking a little bit later than normal. You may notice actually rhyming. That's one that's hard for kids with dyslexia. And along that, learning the ABCs, because it's a rhyme, it's a song, and the child with dyslexia may have trouble with that. How about some of the ones that are seem completely unrelated to?
Well, one that we realized afterwards was our son. We would go to play dates, and he was 5 months old, and all the kids were just sitting there, not moving, and he was crawling everywhere. And that is one sign of dyslexia, early crawler. Really? He was everywhere. When you look in the book, we have pictures of him climbing everywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
The little guy. Difficulty with tying their shoes, right? Right,
fine motor stuff like buttoning buttons, sometimes just holding or gripping a pencil may be part of it. And then as you start to actually teach them a little bit in preschool, learning the sight words.
Sight words were an issue. Spelling words, it's similar but different. He had difficulty with counting at the beginning or memorizing the math facts, right? So, and something that the teacher would say was he had these amazing ideas. When you talk to him, he just goes on and on. But when it came time to writing it was painful. It was laborious. It was not coming out. There was a major issue there, right? Right,
exactly. So these are some of the signs and symptoms of dyslexia that we, as part of our mission, we want to inform parents and teachers of this so they can recognize dyslexia early and, as you said, get the services they need.
Yeah, and in the book we have the tools and strategies section, right? We said with the videos, and all these symptoms are all in there so that you can we go through all the different categories so that you can get an idea of, is it just, like one example I think of is reversing letters. Well, reversing letters in itself doesn't mean you're dyslexic because children up to, I think at the end of the first semester of first grade, it's actually normal.
Right.
And teachers don't even make an issue of that. But if it continues, then it becomes an issue.
Right.
So it's not that one thing, it's all these things associated together that you start to realize, hey, what's going on here?
Right, exactly.
Right?
Exactly. So the second part of our mission is we advocate. And by this we mean we actually advocate on behalf of the child for the parents. We teach parents and teachers that words are powerful, and they need to, use those words to help their child. And a big part of it is to emphasize your child's strengths. As you go through dyslexia, there's a lot of things you have to quote fix, right? That you need to work on their reading, work on their spelling, work on their writing, and so the child can think like, oh my gosh, I don't do anything right. But if you focus on their strengths and really build on those and help them, develop those so that they really feel that sense of pride. Then it really helps them.
Exactly, because you, first of all, we explain all that in our books and our videos and things like that. Is you start working with the biggest thing that need to be helped with, and at the same time you also work on the big strengths so that they feel empowered.
Right.
They need to be empowered. They need to feel happy and successful, and that they're a good child, and that they're, even though they're struggling with this, it doesn't make them less than other kids. And also to have this conversation with the teachers. I have to say that for us, I can't think of one teacher that was not receptive to us because we made that collaboration. We chose to work really hard with the teachers and take the responsibility as a parent and talk with the teacher. So the fact that we've had amazing teachers is part of us taking the time to be advocates for our child and saying, okay, he's struggling with that, we'll work with this, work together, how are we going to do this, how are we going to do that, and then they see it differently. And a lot of times I know many teachers that have no idea about dyslexia, so they're frustrated and they're either overworked, especially in public school. There's so many kids in one class, and so sometimes they think that kids are just trying to be disruptive, and they're frustrated, and sometimes they see things that is really unhelpful to the child, and sometimes they don't mean it because they're just frustrated, and sometimes they do mean it. So we're just trying to make teachers aware that some of those kids, they don't do that on purpose. They're struggling. They're struggling really hard. So we're trying to make them see that their words can change a lot of those kids forever. And it's very important to be using your words very carefully.
Right. So and as parents, in addition to choosing your words carefully, you want to help them develop that Teflon attitude we talked about before, that they are they're so confident with their abilities that when somebody says something about them, it kind of rolls off their back.
And exactly.
And to focus on their strengths and use lots of positive reinforcement. Right.
What I was trying to say is, you will never, when you're in a class, when you're in life, when you're wherever you are, you will never be able to say, I'm going to eliminate all these people. I will, not associate with these people. There's no such thing. The negative people are always going to be there no matter what we do. So we have to find ways to empower our kids, to find the strength to not be disempowered by people whose opinions often don't matter but can be really cruel. So even if you're dyslexic or not dyslexic, you have to find ways to not be affected by these people who sometimes don't even realize what they say.
So, all right. So the next of the 4 points is that we assist.
Right. So basically, that's the biggest part of our book is the tools and strategies. So because we said we've been through this journey, and we started when our son, we started since he's been born, because we've been trying to there was all these issues, even like speech when he was 2 years old, and all these little things that we didn't realize that we've been advocating for all this time. Right. So for the last 12 years we've been working on this. Right. So now we share with you. We share everything, even the good, the bad, whatever worked, whatever didn't work for us, so that you can have a faster, easier, simpler way to get to the services that you need, a better understanding of what dyslexia looks like, and that you can move on with your life, because it's such a long journey, and it could be really stressful, you know.
Right,
so
right. Yeah, exactly.
it comes from the heart.
Right, exactly. So, and the last thing is we guide, and by this we mean we help parents navigate this school system. We use, you know, my years of experience as a pediatrician to help you figure out what's going on, connect the dots, as we say, and then work with the teachers to get the services you need. Because, like we mentioned before, a lot of times the only thing that the teacher can see is this child's being disruptive. He's getting up out of his seat. He's jumping around. He's hyperactive, or can't seem to pay attention. And it can be difficult for them to see the underlying cause. So by helping you kind of connect the dots and realize that, and then find the services you need either through the school or through outside the school, that we help you guide you through that. So.
So the next part is we'd like to do a little activity in that, you know, we didn't invent any of this. This is just all the research that we've done, right? So one of the tests that adapted it was, you know, Dying Craft uses it, and other people have used it too. So we've adapted it for our purposes, especially for, you know, at the office we use it a lot to get an idea. Does it mean your child, okay, if this happens, you do this certain thing, you're dyslexic? Of course not. But it's just a guiding tool to help us, and it's kind of a little fun activity that we want to show you that if you are concerned about reading issues and writing issues, and that you think, oh, maybe there is dyslexia there, that is one little thing that you could do to see if there's little hints in there. Right. So next we'll show you what we're talking about.
Right. Okay. So we call this the alphabet test. And if you look below, there are 2 download links. The first one is for you to download this lined sheet of paper. And you'll see a bunch of lines there. And basically what we want you to do is we want you to write the alphabet between each of the 2 sets of lines. So you start up here at the top and you just basically start ABC, and do it in lowercase. All right, and we'll give you, well, you can stop the tape or whatever. We'll give you 2 minutes. And then once you're done, we'll go through it. And there's a second download link down there that you can actually download a copy of our son's ABCs. He's in 7th grade now. He's, you know, reading great. He's top of his class, does fantastic, and still has the same rate.
And this is what we're saying is, this one that you're going to download, which he just wrote, is literally, he wrote it this week. So this is after doing all the remedial classes, all the little hints that sometimes still stay there.
Right. Okay, so download it now, and we'll be right back. Put some kind of thing in there. So now that you've had a chance to write out the alphabet for yourself and maybe your child, and you downloaded our son's version of it, we wanted to just show you some of the difference. So up top is the typical of the child with dyslexia, or this is actually called dysgraphia, which is associated with dyslexia. It's a difficulty with writing, and it leads to tiring easily, difficulty with holding the pencil. They often will shorten their answers because they have all these great ideas, and then it gets time to write it out, and it takes so much energy. They actually shorten their answers.
Well, they don't know how. They have a great word because they have great vocabulary when you talk to them, but they don't know how to spell it.
Right.
So they'll change the word.
Right.
Right. Or it takes them so long between thinking it and then writing it. So sometimes they don't finish their homework. Mm-hmm. So the teachers are like, what's going on? Right. They get frustrated because they're like, can't you finish anything? Right. Yeah. And it really is an issue with, like we said, it's, for example, the F.
Right.
Right? So go ahead, you can explain.
Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of clues on here. So first of all, one thing our son did is the F, he kind of went over and over and over. So he started at the top, went down, came back up, and then went across. So, he's going over this F a number of times rather than just doing a click, bing, bang, like that. So it takes much longer. and it takes a lot more energy.
Right, so when he's still working here, his friends are down here.
Right.
So now you can see, it's hard to understand when you don't see it, but when you actually think of it, he's working here,
Right.
and his friends are here.
Right.
So he doesn't finish on time,
Right.
and he's exhausted.
Right, and even as something as what seems as silly as how you make your B's. So sometimes instead of coming down and like that, which again you're coming down, it's easier. They'll start here and they'll go up, and again this upward motion on both their B's and D's is an issue. The other thing you might see is because they can get the letter reversals. Sometimes they'll go down to make a B and they'll come down and they'll be like, do I go right, do I go left, do I go right, do I go left, and then they'll be like, oh forget it, I'll just make a capital. So they'll just make a capital and they don't have to think about it.
Because remember, we ask you to do it in lower cases.
Right.
And then a lot of times capitals show up, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And then this part is difficulty crossing of information from one side to the other.
Mm-hmm.
So my son still, if you look at it today, on the sheet, still doesn't cross the lines.
Right, exactly. Nothing goes below. So the
Right.
G doesn't come down, the J doesn't come down. On his, the P is
P
looks like
became
a
a capital. The F is now looks like a T. So it's
Right.
now he uses computers a lot.
Right.
So it changed his life, and it's something that some schools don't want to, and some teachers don't want to, and some teachers really want to because they see, oh wow, he needs that, right? And that's one of the part of getting the accommodations for the schools and things like that. So, instead of focusing on the energy of writing, he clicks the button and he keeps going, right?
And
So he sees the letter,
Right.
and he doesn't have to figure out how to write it. He
Right.
sees it and goes.
Exactly.
So it makes a big difference for some people. But some dyslexics still, computers are difficult for them too. So there's all these little things that you have to take into consideration, right?
Right. Exactly. So those are some of the differences that you might see on the alphabet test. And like we said, we want to reiterate, this isn't a diagnostic test for dyslexia. It doesn't mean you have it, you don't have it. It's just a clue.
A clue, exactly. It's a clue.
To dysgraphia, and then taken in the context of the entire child can give you a clue that maybe you need to look into dyslexia. So.
Right, because dyslexia has so many associated issues with it. There's dyspraxia, which is difficulty with speech and coordination. Like our son is, again, we say he's in 7th grade. He still does one-on-one, once a week, speech. And it's going to be on for a little while still. So there's dyscalculia, which is difficulty with math. So some kids struggle with math facts, some struggle with complex words, problems. So some people, they have both. Some people have this dysgraphia, who's the difficulty with the writing. And it's not everybody that has it, but it's such a broad thing, so that's why we talk about all of it, so that you can be aware that it could show up, right?
Right. Okay, so we're going to move on now to spelling and sight words.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so as part of teaching you some of the right-brained and dyslexic way of learning, that's what our son calls it, I need to learn it the dyslexic way, we wanted to show you some of the techniques that work for kids with dyslexia. So the first thing that kids often come in contact is the sight words, right? And for the average kid, they get some flashcards like this, and on the flashcards you'll just see the the words all just in black and white, and the kids just run through them, and you just drill them over and over again, and they do fine, right?
Right.
So, and I always say this is how I got through medical school, right? I just drilled it in my head because I'm a pretty left-brain thinker. But with a kid with dyslexia, this doesn't work.
Right.
So,
You can go through that over and over and over and over again. It doesn't make a difference. They don't associate it.
right.
So you have to find a ways to associate it. So when we would learn spelling words, you need pictures, visuals, and all these things you learn. We've learned from, books that we've read, people that we've talked to, teachers that we, the learning classes that, dyslexia learning classes, all these tools that they showed us how to look at a word and how to make it stick in your head. Right? So me, if you look at it, you think of, what does me mean to a child? Themselves, right? So we would put, this is our son when he was 4. He got his Dalmatian.
Right.
And it's a picture of him. So when he's at the test, and the teacher says me, what does he think of the first thing? The picture of him sitting on the couch.
Right.
And then the word me comes, right? So that's how you, and then look. And then they draw the pictures themselves. You either put they have to be involved in the whole process, right? So that you explain to use two sides of the brain.
Right,
and
exactly. So a couple things come up with this, and we'll explain this more when we get into the longer spelling words. We'll do a whole demonstration. But there's color involved in it, so you're involving multiple parts of the brain. You actually have them make it, so again, they're involved in the learning process. As they're doing it, you have them say the word, so they use their verbal part of their brain, and also that helps with because they hear it, and that helps the auditory part of the brain. So you just want to include as many different parts of the brain to help them associate it. So when that word comes up at the test, look, they're like, okay, that's right, I remember drawing the picture of the eyes.
Exactly. Exactly, that's what I was going to say, is if you think about if mom draws the picture, there's not as much impact as the child remembering to draw the picture.
Right.
That is so much easier to remember. Oh, what did I draw? Oh, the eyes, the look, and the two O's, right?
Yeah.
So that is part of how to do spelling words and sight words. We're doing sight words for this moment. And then we're going to go on to another, like the spelling words, right? There's so many spelling words, so we can't go through. We have products that videos that help you with all these the sight words and the spelling word, how to do it. But we can't go through all the spelling words. There's thousands of them. But our goal was to what? To show you how to learn to study.
Right. Exactly.
And that the child learns how to study, most importantly.
Right.
So that my son, when he studies something, at the beginning, of course, we had to help him and draw the pictures with him and do the stories with him. But eventually, it becomes a habit, and he knows how to do the pictures, what to draw, and how to remember it. So that's the most important, because they're the ones who go to school, not us. So that's more important.
Right.
So we're going to show you how to learn the word cow, right? So
because by this point, your child's gone past the sight words, and now they're starting to learn concepts. So here's the OW concepts. So Lucie will show you how to make this all together, so your child really can do this themselves, put the entire thing together, and then they'll be able to learn all these words.
So the first thing is, what's of all these words, which one is the easiest to figure out? The cow was easy for us. And then remember, the child needs to make the picture. If it's my daughter making the picture, she'll go on forever. I mean, the cow is going to be gorgeous. But if it's my son, it's going to be to the simplest thing ever. And that, at the same time, is if they have 20 words to remember, and you don't want to spend all this time and energy on drawing. So, I mean, what we did, we went online and looked at easy ways to draw a cow, basically. So anything that you need to draw, the internet has it all. So all we do is...
I'm just going to step out so you have that.
Yeah, a head, and then a body, and then some legs, and then another leg here, a tail. So it doesn't have to be perfect, it just needs to symbolize the cow, right? So it's not about perfection, it's about association, right? The little... Alright, and then you could do some dots for the black and white. So you want to color here, but again, it doesn't have to be elaborate, right? Two eyes. So you see a cow, right? And you're going to take like, I'm not going to take a marker, but you can just go with a pencil, right? A black pencil, and color these in, right? Like that. So it gives you an idea of the spotted cow. So what we're trying to say for the words, we want the words, see the now, ow, and how is, what are we looking at? We're looking at OW ending. So we want it to be sticking out, in every word that we do. And we want the other part of the words not to be, bring confusion, right? So we try to put the ending that we want to work on the same color and the rest another color, but all the same color. Does that make sense? Can you explain that better if I...
No, that's right. I mean, just you'll see, I'll bring this back into the picture, that, let me just put it here, that the OW is the same red all along, and that the rest of the word, whether it's the front of the word, the back of the word, doesn't matter. The rest of the word's the same color in all the different words that you're learning.
And see the owl, the OW stands at the beginning, so you want to make sure that you have it all the same color. So then it's all about association,
Right.
crossing information from one side to the other. I see the cow.
Yes.
All right, I see. So not only is your child using movement, he's also remembering making a picture and associating the different colors. When the child is going to have a test and it says cow, the first thing they try to remember what OW sounds like, he's going to remember cow. So ow. So this is how he's going to associate remembering what OW means. Because if you just have this like that, C-O-W, and you don't know what OW sounds like, it's going to be very difficult. But if you can see, oh yeah, the cow, then that's now, that's bow, that, all these little things that you can do to help your child, to incorporate a story, incorporate color, movement, visuals, all this is how
Right. So, and
you succeed.
You know, this is just a quick demo of the Sight and Spelling Words. And,
Right.
We have a much more in-depth product
Video,
where
right.
we go through it and actually explain some other concepts that are with this,
Right.
of ways to help, and with longer words, so that your child, when they go on to, I always say for our son, in Latin, he can use it. He can use it in science if he
Right.
needs to learn words. So it helps you with all those things. So.
Right, so yeah, this is just one example, but there's all these little tricks that we show you in the book, part of it, and then we've made a product just about spelling, just about sight words, all those little things that we've learned to incorporate to make the end of the week a successful one when they do the test. So that's all, this is what it's all about.
Right. All right, so now that you've seen, you know, a quick demonstration of how the sight words, we can help you with the sight words, we want to just go over some of the other help that we have. So the first, and I guess the thing that started it all, is the book itself.
Right. As we said before, Dyslexic and Unstoppable, how dyslexia helps us create the lives of our dreams and how you can do it too. So that book came because of a need that we saw after we've been through the journey with our son to find tools and help as soon as possible, right? And to help, like, look at a book through a dyslexic's vision and view, and from a pediatrician's perspective, which he deals with that every single day, you know?
Exactly. So as we mentioned before, we wanted it to be, first of all, inspiring. You actually hear the story that we went through and can kind of associate, and we help you throughout the book with little call-out boxes, like just to help you see, you know, where you'll see a similarity in your life with your child. And then at the end, as we said, we have the summaries for the right brain thinker, the dyslexic, so you can get the points clearly. And then, like we mentioned, my chapter, that's question and answer. So it's everything that I've been asked along the way that you can think of, is in there. And, you know, questions of what is dyslexia, you know, what is dysgraphia, all these things, and how do I find this service or whatever.
Right. What services can I get? Where can I get it?
Yeah, what do I want to do outside the school? What if I want to do it with the school, et cetera, et cetera. And then the part that we love the best is the tools and strategies section, because it's interactive, and it's also everything that we've done. It's everything that we've put together, including the little demonstration we showed before. We go into similar type things. We talk about the reading. We talk about reading classes. We talk about
fine motor. Just all the little things that we do on a daily basis, especially during school time, to remove some of the frustrations. Because like dyslexia, you can overcome it, but you have it forever.
Right.
So that's two different. Overcoming it doesn't mean it goes away.
Right.
It just means you find ways to cope with it and be successful in your life, right? So all the little things that we do to help our child succeed in life, and us remove some of the frustration as a parent, because if the parents are not there to help their child succeed with overcoming dyslexia, it's not going to happen either. Right. Because this is a family affair. Definitely. Everybody has to put in some time to make this work, and it's overwhelming at the beginning. So that's where we come in. We're like, we've done it all. We're showing you all. We want to share it because it's worth the reward. Right.
Definitely. Once you get to the other side of it. All right, so as we mentioned, along the way we've developed tools and strategies as we've needed them in our lives. And one of the things that we saw in our lives is that nutrition is a big part of it. That using the appropriate nutrients that are brain healthy to help our son with focus and concentration, and also taking away all the additives and all the other things that are a detriment to focus and concentration really helped us. So we thought, well, we'd love to share this tool with people too, and that came to be the Cookbook.
Right, the second book. It was basically, as you go through this journey with dyslexia, it's not like one thing and then you're done.
Right.
It's a journey, as we say. It's a journey. That means what? That means that you keep doing things, improving things, changing things that help you better cope or have better results in your life. So one of the things we noticed is when we started looking into nutrition and changing our nutrition, and even if you're dyslexic or non-dyslexic, because we don't do food for a dyslexic child and food for the non-dyslexic child. We all eat the same thing for the same reasons, right? Because we all want to be healthy. So that's part of the ingredients that we use. Is when especially if you're a parent and you're working, you're not going to make 2 dinners, and you don't want things that are complicated, but you want things that your children will eat. And this book was actually my daughter made the cooking. She cooked the recipes because we wanted to show you not only does she love cooking, but a child can make it, or a child can help you make it. Or it's a family, oriented book. It's not about these big fancy books or all these things. It's about dyslexia. What helps our son have better focus and concentration with things that, being realistic and not having to sacrifice everything. So that's how it came to be,
Right, exactly. And like as you mentioned, all the recipes also are recipes that kids like. So we try to get these brain healthy nutrients into them, in foods that they actually enjoy eating.
Right.
So, and like all our books, it includes videos from our website that you can go and actually we make the
Right. So the first part is obviously explaining why this cookbook is for dyslexics, right? Because if somebody hasn't seen the first one, they're like, where is that coming from? Right. And the second part is Doug actually researched why we did what we did and what we took out, what we put in, and what are we using and why. And then the other part is making the recipes, and it's really a cool, fun book that these are actually things that we do. This is not do this. This is our life. This is what happens in our life. And it's called Dyslexic and Unstoppable, the Cookbook. So revealing our secrets, how having healthier brains and lifestyles help us overcome dyslexia. So, because we wanted to show you that this is not just something we say. All these things that we give you, all these tools that we've either used it and it worked, or we still use it today. So this is about our reality, you know, like this is real life things, you know.
Yeah. Okay. We moved on from there, and we realized that a lot of parents see their kids and they see inattention or hyperactivity, and they're either the teacher or the parent immediately thinks ADHD. And this came from my experience as a pediatrician, all these people coming into my office with this. And so we actually go through the diagnostic tool that we use to diagnose ADHD called the Vanderbilt Assessment Scale. And we go through the various steps, and we explain, you know, okay, with this particular question, this is what you would see with a child with ADHD, and this is where you could, you know, possibly see it with dyslexia. So we go through that, each of those things. And there's also a special report that comes with that where I explain a lot of the stuff too.
Well, I can still remember the day that, you know, because I run the company, I was at the office one day and I'm sitting there, and this is when we're trying to figure out what's going on, right? We know, okay, our kid is smart, he's struggling, he's fidgety like crazy, he doesn't sit still, all these things. But what we didn't realize it was at certain moments, right? So I'm sitting there, and my husband has this list that he uses when, you know, for the figuring if it's ADHD or not. And I'm reading the list, and I'm like, oh, he's got this, he's got this, he's got that. So he comes in from seeing a patient. He's like, what's wrong with you, right? And I'm like, oh my gosh, it must be this and all this stuff. And he's like, well, not necessarily, because, you know, then he starts explaining the differences. And then we start looking at it through after having helped our child, because dyslexia, you can have dyslexia and ADHD. They don't have to be together, or you can, you know, either or all these little things. But for our son, he didn't have ADHD, but it presented itself like that. But after you fix the problem, some of these issues went away. So that's the difference, and that's what we go through, that dyslexia versus ADHD, is how to figure out if it is ADHD or it's not ADHD, and why does it stay or why does it go away. This, you know, all these little.
Exactly. So then you can deal with the problem that you can deal with, and the other thing is to get the services you need, whether it's special teaching for dyslexia, or modifications for ADHD, or both, like you said.
Right. Because it's very, it's you know, I'm a pediatric nurse, and I was like, wow, like I didn't see things that way until it, you know, when it becomes your child, you're like, I don't know anything, you know, and all of a sudden it's like, so that's why we're trying to show you as much of the two sides of it, right? It was really important, right?
Yeah, exactly. All right, so the next one that we have is the survival guide for parents of smart kids struggling in elementary school. And this is really an early detection tool. We basically take everything we've learned along this journey and help show you
what dyslexia looks like.
Exactly, before you can see the actual dyslexia. So. Because,
and that's where it comes from, it's because when you're in it, anything you do, when you're in it, you don't see it. You cannot, you have this tunnel vision, right? But because we wrote these books, we went back. I went back through when I was in elementary school, and I look at my report cards, I looked at all the symptoms, I talked to people, I went through all this journey, I went through all my kids, I went through everything, I looked at videos, I looked at pictures, I looked at teachers' comments, all this thing, what showed up before or during or kept progressing. This is where it comes from. And so again, to give you the tools to say, oh my gosh, I think that might be dyslexia, this is not dyslexia, or, you know, whatever it is, so that you can have a clearer understanding of what you need to do with your child. Right?
Exactly.
And simple. Videos, again, if your child is dyslexic, it's in your family, so somebody has dyslexia, so it could be the parent who is struggling to read, and they don't have time to read, or they're busy working, they don't have time to read all these things. So all this is videos, every single, you know.
So and we have, what it is, we arrange it by reading, symptoms associated with reading. Then there's math in there, and then it goes into fine motor and those types of things, and even some strengths and gifts at the end.
Right.
And each one, it's bullet points of what is said in the video, but then video, so you can just watch it, and of course you can watch it again if you need to. So that should definitely help, and it also helps you when you're dealing with a school. So now you can take and kind of assemble and connect the dots for them so that they can help you. Get
Right, because one of the biggest, the wonderful part that we put in is Doug actually showing you and telling you what to ask for, how to do it, forms that they use, and all these things, so that you come in and you're not demanding things, but you're collaborating with them and you know what you're talking about. So it empowers you as a parent to get there and you say, okay, I understand what that word means. I understand what you're talking about this. I have a feeling of what this is all about. And it's so much, when somebody tells you something and you don't know what they're talking about, you can't absorb the information. But if you have these tools to say, okay, well, I remember they said, in dyslexia versus ADHD, okay, these were, if this continued, well, he doesn't have that anymore, so it's obviously not going there. Then you have the pages that you talk about, who do you go to get the services that you need, what kind of services that you need. So when you get to that, because very, 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 very intimidating to have these. That's what, we haven't done that because personally, in the sense that we went outside of the school, so we've had meetings. I'm not saying we didn't have meetings with print directors of the schools and all that stuff that is intimidating. We did. What I'm saying is we didn't have to get the services from the school because we went outside of the school. But we tell you all the things that you need to look for so that when you get there, you can be empowered.
Right. And it comes from my experience of helping all these patients all along the way these last 18 years navigate the school
and living
system.
it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So the next two products or tools that we have, one is, they both deal with spelling. And we saw a little bit of a demonstration, very quick one, in this webinar. But these two are specific. We go into each of the two types of spelling. So the first one's the sight words. Sight words are those smaller words that kids first are exposed to that often can't be necessarily sounded out. They kind of just have to be memorized. And we explain how to do it for the child with dyslexia.
Right.
And then, of course, we do demonstrations too.
Right. Yeah, exactly. We as we explained in this video, is we teach you, and you either teach your child or your child learns. They do it with us while we do the demonstration, because we want to empower the child. We just want to finish by saying thank you for taking the time to be here, because that means your child's success is very important to you.
Right.
And we want to say that, again, dyslexia is a broad, there's so many layers of it, and there's so many people contributing to this issue. And we have our part with empowering the children in the early detection, and then there's the people who work on the teaching of helping the reading classes, and then there's the people who do the researches, and then there's the people who changes the law, and then there's the people who everybody, the speech therapists, right? There's all these people that work together to bring awareness of dyslexia, and it's really amazing how throughout this journey, we are meeting so many people and collaborating with so many people, and it's really empowering to see the changes that are happening and positive things that are happening for kids with dyslexic while we all put our efforts together.
That's right. So please, join our community, like our page on Facebook. If you have any questions, there's a little thing you can send an email to us, and we'll be glad to answer your questions. We'll do it in a video, in a future video, and let us know what we can do for you. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.